Welcome to Build Your Maverick Business, the podcast for underdog, outlier, and renegade entrepreneurs. Brought to you by Strange Creative Studio. If you dream of going off on your own and launching your rebel empire, but don't know where to start, you're in the right place. We'll teach you how to use mindset, branding, and practical advice to build a killer business and transform your world. And now, here's your host, founder of Strange, Alex Pitt.
Hello, my darlings. Comedy scenes at Strange HQ today. If you have listened to the last 2 weeks of Build Your Maverick Business, you will have heard me talking about the fact that I was bulk recording 2 episodes because we're going on holiday. And so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't leaving you all in the lurch and that you had things to listen to while we were gone. So I recorded my 2 episodes and I was like, yay, I'm finished. I've completed enough podcast content to keep everyone going while we're away. Don't have to think about that now until we get back from holiday. So I went in and I told Joe, said, I've done the podcast until we get back. And he was like, oh, great, well done. All 3 of them are in there, yeah? And I was like, what? What do you mean all 3? He was like, well, you need to do 3. And I was like, but I thought that by the time we got back, anyway, turns out that I'd actually got the dates wrong in my calendar of when we were away. And so I thought that when we got back, I'd have time to do the next one. No, I will not. No, I will not. So he sent me back to my desk, got my mic back out, and here I am. So, yeah. Fortunately, I have lots of things to talk to you about, so it wasn't a problem for me to jump back on and do another episode. So here we are. But yeah, this is the 3rd episode that I've recorded in a day. Honestly. Do you know what though? It was actually really handy because this leads perfectly into what I want to talk to you about this week. So ridiculous. Anyway, so this is not the first time this week that I've tripped over myself when it comes to organisation and admin in the business and in my life. As I mentioned, we're off to the States next week, to New York and then Vegas. If you're listening to this, I will be back by the time this goes live. This is how organised Joe is getting me to be. Yeah, so we're off on holiday next week. And we had to fill out our visa applications, our ESTA forms, if you like. So Joe was working the day that we realised that we needed to get this done. And so I had to do this on both of our behalves, which put the fear of God in me straight away. Joe was like, don't worry, it's nice and simple. All you need is our passports. Well, I think it took me about an hour and a half. It's not even that much information that you have to give them. Like, it's maybe 3 pages of forms and it's all just like, what's your passport number? Where do you live? Sort of thing. Nothing too strenuous. But I freaked myself out so much with this. I tend to really, really overthink this sort of thing. So while it wasn't the most difficult task in the world, I made it really difficult. I got myself in such a flap. I was losing the plot, pressing the wrong buttons, and the whole time I just wanted to run away and not look at it ever again. So then also, we're off to a wedding on Saturday, and we had to book a hotel because it's not that close to where we live, so we're going to stay overnight. And I freaked out trying to book the hotel. I convinced myself that I was somehow going to book something in the wrong country, like miles away from where we were staying. Like, it wouldn't surprise me, to be fair. I once booked flights on the wrong date there and the wrong date back, and I put the wrong name on my passport, and I had to pay, I think it was 150 quid to put it right. And I was a student at the time, so yeah, that actually wasn't helpful at all. Now, I need to point out, right, and I hope that if this is not the first episode that you've listened to, that you realise I'm not a complete moron. If this is the first episode, please go back and listen to some others to back me up. No, I am not an absolute moron. I do, however, get very flustered when it comes to admin and organisation. I don't like it, I overthink it, and I make mistakes because this is not in any way my area of genius. Now, since Joe has started working for Strange, he has taken over the vast majority of the admin tasks that I hate, which is lovely. So things like invoicing, sending out contracts, keeping an eye on the cash flow, the project management, all of that kind of thing. Now, I did that for just under 2 years, I guess. And we didn't go bankrupt the whole time. but I didn't enjoy those tasks. I found them really draining, and draining that energy away meant that I didn't have as much energy for all the things that I wanted to do, right? So all of the things that I really, really, really wanted to do, and not just that I enjoyed them, but I was really good at them. I am still really good at them. So I was bringing my best energy to that work. So those sorts of things, right, things that I consider myself to be really good at are things like speaking to clients and getting them on board, getting them excited about Strange, really seeing who they are and what they're all about, making them feel seen. I'm good at coming up with creative concepts. I'm good at, creating what their brand is going to look like based on everything that they've said, like translating visually what those founders are like and what those businesses are all about. I'm good at teaching, explaining things in a way that are easy to understand, which is why I like doing this podcast. I don't like to sugarcoat everything. I like to be very honest with you. I'm not good at spreadsheets, and that's okay. That's okay. Because the thing is, those tasks that I'm saying I'm good at, I just bring that level of energy to them that means that everything I do just kind of flows. I call these my dancing around at the whiteboard tasks. You see, I have a whiteboard in my office, right? It's next to my desk. And when I'm cooking up something special, a new idea, a new product, I stand there writing up my ideas, usually dancing around to some very loud music, getting all excited and having a little boogie. Now, depending on what mood I'm in, that is either wargasm or tears for fears. I like to keep you on your toes. So when I'm working on my dancing around at the whiteboard tasks, I'm not dragging myself to my desk and I'm not wishing the minutes away, just waiting until the task is done. You see, you're not doing yourself or anybody else any favours if you're stuck doing something you're crap at or something that you hate. And I know sometimes we fall down this trap of feeling like a bit of a martyr, like, I've earned my worth if I do all of this stuff that I really, really can't stand, because then I feel like I've done a really hard day's work and I've earned the money that's coming into the business. But really, you're just shooting yourself in the foot because you are good at certain things. And if you deny yourself being able to focus on those things, it's just not helpful for anyone. Staying in your zone of genius is such a valuable thing to do for yourself, to guarantee that you're really bringing that A game. Now, I'm going to suggest a really simple little exercise, giving you some homework, loves, to help you navigate your strengths versus the stuff that you should not be doing. Okay, so first of all, get a sheet of paper and a pen. Very high tech, I know. And I want you, this is going to take you a little while, but list out everything that you do in your business. And I mean everything. So, for example, if you work in a product-based business, then stuff like tracking and managing your inventory, creating the products themselves, whether it's designing them or actually making them by hand, if that's something that you do. And if that is something that you do, then getting the materials, going out and sourcing materials and pricing those products. Think about customer service, speaking to the people who are buying from you, dealing with complaints. If you run a service-based business, think about invoicing, onboarding the clients, looking for new clients, project management once you've got those clients on board. Really think through the average week you spend in your business and write down everything on this long list. Bear in mind the little kind of mini tasks like your marketing, your admin, every single little thing that you need to do. Now, get a new piece of paper or turn over the one you've got, save the trees and all that. I want you to make a little table with 3 columns. Okay, now on the left column is your dancing around at the whiteboard tasks, the things you absolutely love doing, that you get lost in and you lose track of time when you do them. Okay, so that's all the fun stuff. That's what you really want to be focusing on. On the right-hand side is the get in the C column. This is the stuff you absolutely hate doing. Right, this is the stuff that you're rubbish at, that you would happily never do again, and you're only doing because you're bootstrapping or because you are at that early stage in your business where there's nobody that you can hand it over to just yet. And in the middle is everything else, right? We don't really need to pay too much attention to this column for now. Let's call it the meh column, right? It's the stuff that you don't love, but you don't scream into the abyss every time you have to do it either. Okay, so that's your meh column. So in that right-hand column, right, the get in the C column, the stuff that you really, really hate, I want you to have a look through that list and pick the one task that you hate more than anything? The thing that saps up so much of your energy and enthusiasm. And I want you to really think about how you can either A, outsource it to somebody else, and I'll come back to that in a sec, or B, automate it so that you don't have to pay as much attention to it. All right, so when it comes to automation, there's lots of ways that you can do this. Like, there is now a software for everything. There's like, if you hate accounting, there is accounting software that automates so much stuff. Like, there are templates for sending out contracts, all this sort of thing. If you really don't like posting on social media, like, find ways of batching things so that you just spend like 1 day a month creating a load of stuff and then you don't have to think about it for another month. You know, automation is such a great way to make sure that you don't get too bogged down in things, that you can just get in the zone once, less often, bash it out, done. So that's kind of like the slightly harder way of doing it. I'd call that the slightly harder way of doing it, because the absolute dream, right, is that you get somebody else to do it for you. That is the dream. So when I say outsource something, I don't mean that you have to hire somebody in-house to do this for you. I say this a lot, but we live in this magnificent time where the internet has brought us all together, and there are people that you can tap into all over the world to do stuff that you don't want to do. There are virtual assistants who specialise in all kinds of things. Like, there are admin ones, there are project management ones, there are design virtual assistants even. You can find people who do little bits and bobs for you here and there and do a bit of management as well. There are virtual assistants who can take over all kinds of tasks. It doesn't necessarily have to be a virtual assistant. You just want to find someone you don't have to hire full time. This person works on an hourly rate and you can just delegate that one task to them. Okay? Now, the reason that I'm just saying do one thing from this list is that I speak from experience. When you first start to delegate stuff, when you first start to take your foot off the pedal a little bit and relinquish some control in your business, it can feel really uncomfortable. Especially if, like me, when you have been so close to everything for such a long time, the second that you take that little bit of control away from yourself and hand it over to somebody else, it feels like you're going to die. You just absolutely panic. And you just think, oh my God, what if everything goes terribly wrong? When I first started delegating, it just felt so weird. I found it so hard and I resisted because I was terrified of what would happen if I wasn't looking over everything, if I weren't completely in control. And the first thing that I outsourced was the editing of this podcast. I used to do it myself painstakingly, and it took me ages. It was very fiddly and it was very time consuming. It made the podcast itself feel like more effort than it needed to be, because I love doing this podcast. I love sitting and chatting shit to you every week, my darlings. And from the feedback I get, it sounds like it's really helpful for you too. And I love that. I love hearing that all of the stuff that I put out is helpful to you. So I didn't like that I was starting to lose some of that enthusiasm and energy by having to sit there and edit out all of my coughs and sniffs. It just took some of that joy and some of the energy away from it for me. So that was the first thing that I stopped doing. And when I stopped doing that, it freed up so much time for me to focus on the content and on creating other products that brought together more of the stuff that this podcast is all about. And there are a few things in the pipeline, I promise. In doing that one thing and getting used to it in a very small way of handing something over, it made it so much easier to take more things off my plate. Now, I've taken a big step back now from all of the things that I used to take up a lot of my time. All of that admin, the invoicing, the project management, everything that I basically just said, Joe, here you go, you can deal with that. And you know what's happened? The business is growing. The business is now growing so much faster than it ever has before. The reason being that I am more focused on the core of what I bring to Strange and the reason that I started Strange in the first place. I am sat very firmly in my little zone of genius, and I can already see the benefits. So bit by bit, little by little, you can start to check off the things in that get in the C column. And eventually in the middle column too. The aim is to get to the point where you're focusing only on those things that you really thrive at. Not just so that you can enjoy this process more, which is important, my loves. It is very important. But so you're bringing your strongest, boss self to work every day. All right, my darlings, that's it from me for this week. Know your strengths. Slowly delegate that shit. All right, dears, I'm actually going on holiday now, so I will catch you here next time.
Got an idea for a maverick business of your own? Learn how to build a powerful brand that will get people obsessed with our online program, not just a pretty logo. You'll learn a simple step-by-step framework that will kickstart your killer brand and help you find your raving fan base. Find out more today at strangecreativestudio.com.